Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. Today we're going to be going over Hero Sandwich number 1 from Slave Labor, a 1987 comic. But before we get into that, I'd like to show you some of my own stuff. This is the newest issue of Random Access. It's number 23, and it's a full-size, not full color, but I'll be getting back to color pretty shortly with my Random Accesses. You can get these at patreon.com/Alex Turbin. And this also has backup stories by Christopher Knox and Paul Courtjohn. And you could also check these out at alexanderturbin.com. Or you could just email me at alexturbin04401 at Yahoo. Or you could just message me at Instagram at alexturbin0441 at instagram.com. So, like I said, there's Cyrene, Mutandis, Random Access, all that stuff you can get at alexanderturbin.com is probably the best way to do it. But now that I'm done shamefully promoting myself, let's look at Hero Sandwich. Hero Sandwich was one of those books that I always saw in catalogs and magazines and stuff that I never really got it back in the day. I just got this one recently, I think, or I found it in my comic collection or something. But I never really read it back in the day. And I there's a few thoughts I have on it. But let's get into it. And first, like always, we'll go into the story, and then we'll check out the writing and the art. And I'm a little bit confused about the credits. It says that it's drawn by Chuck Beckham, but then it also has, and he talks about drawing Miracle Man and the Badger and stuff like that. And also written by Dan Vado, no, publisher. I'm not sure. Ed Savage, he's the graphic arts director. And so this is all the slave labor creative staff, I guess. But then it has, down here, it has the brains is Dan Vado, brawn is Ed Savage, sensitivity Aaron Weiss, inspiration Michelle Vado, and Martha Williams, and manual dexterity Chuck Beckham. So I guess Dan Vado wrote it and Ed Savage drew it. But no, it's Chuck Beckham. I don't know who this Ed Savage is. If that's some sort of inside joke, is it like supposed to be? Is Ed Savage from Wonder Years? Is that Ed Savage? No, that's some other kind of Savage. Anyway, I'm pretty confused as to who the creative team is on this. But that's okay. We'll get into that later. So it starts off with this character, and you see some scritch scratch, and he's in this dilapidated motel room, basement, something like that. He's got boxes all around, and it's kind of things are strewn about, and he's still doing this scritch scratch. He's talking about his mom and how she was very supportive of him, and he could do whatever he wanted to, and she believed in him and stuff. But then at the end, he says she should thank her by going up and digging her up from where he buried her. So, and then you realize that scritching and scratching was him using a file to create these teeth. And I guess he wanted to be part of some vampire club or something like that. And they said he wasn't dedicated. So then I guess he's off to prove himself. So then the next page is, I guess, the next scene, and I think it's the same character. We think it's the same character. I mean, it seems like him. And there's a girl walking by, and he kind of checks her out and sees her, and she's walking along, and he grins. So I guess it's inferred that he's going to go eat her and grind her bones to death and all that kind of stuff. So then we skip to another part of town, I guess. When you don't have like somewhere else or 5 minutes later or some kind of direction, for me, I read this and it was perfectly okay because this left it kind of open-ended where you didn't know what was going to happen to her, but you kind of knew, you kind of understood that he had these sharp teeth and he was going to use them. He's going to use them on her and he's going to do some like horrible stuff to her. And then it kind of just changes the different scene. I kind of wish it had a little blurb saying somewhere else or something like that, just to kind of show that it's different characters that are gonna be introduced and stuff. So it's these two sets of characters. It's obviously some sort of drug deal or some kind of deal, and they're talking about 1.5 million versus 3 million, and one of the guys is like, if you don't have the 3 million, then deal's over, but you can still leave the. And then one of them pulls out a gun and he says, you can just leave the the money, and he's pretty much threatening the two who are making some sort of deal about the whatever's in this briefcase. And so the guy in the hat, they don't really have names yet. It's really has jumped into the action, which is kind of okay. I mean, I've said before that jumping into the action without any kind of explanation of the characters or the setting or anything like that, sometimes that's perfectly okay if you quickly get to the point of what's happening and some of the characters, and if it's interesting to read, which this is interesting to read. So you're kind of going along with the process. So it doesn't dumb it down for you. It doesn't explain everything that's happening. You're just kind of going along with the story, and you're finding out what's going to happen along with everybody else. So and then you see this guy who's got the long elongated arm, a la Plastic Man, a la Mr. Fantastic, and he smashes his head against the wall. So he's some sort of superhero. You kind of think that seeing him, you think everybody in his group are going to be superheroes, but really he's the only character that has any superpowers that's introduced in this first issue. Possibly in the next issues, you see something indicating more superpowers by more of the characters. I'm guessing Hero Sandwich is the name of the superhero team, but it's never really clearly defined. So the other guy who was acting tough and stuff realizes that these guys have powers and there's weird stuff going on. So he just throws his hands up and he's like, "Go ahead, take it. I'm fine with that." And it's really a lighthearted comic, and it's not really anything. There's a little bit of violence. There's a little bit of not so much gore, but there's a little bit of a horror element to it. But it's more a lighthearted superhero comic that's got a little bit of noir, a little bit of detective stuff, which I guess is noir, but a little bit of detective stuff, a little bit of action. So I think it's them trying to have all of these different pieces into one comic book and not just kind of being a narrow superhero trope of a comic. So they're trying to do some different stuff. So they leave the hotel room and they come across this guy who I guess is hanging outside the door, and he's like a big burly guy with an eye patch, and the guy in the hat and the funky outfit tells him to take off. I guess he has, one of them has the briefcase. I don't know if it's that money. And so they know each other somehow. They call each other by name? I can't remember. But they know each other. One calls him a thief. The other one's like, it's Irving. That's the big guy's name is Irving. And so he goes running away, the guy with the superhero powers, and Irving calls down on his walkie-talkie, telling, I guess, his cohorts or his other men or whatever to catch him. And so the other guy says, "Wow, those are neat walkie-talkies. Your mom give those for Christmas." So it's kind of, like I said, it's lighthearted. They're trying to insert some humor, which that's always a good thing in comics and even action comics. Some of why Marvel is so much more successful than the DC movies is they add that element of humor, especially Thor 3 and Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that. They have that element of humor before the dark times come through either towards the end or the middle or whatever. So they're trying to add an element of humor. I'm not going to say that I actually get the humor. I mean, I get it. It's supposed to be funny, but for me, it just really isn't. It just kind of falls flat. But a lot of humor is like that. It can either go over the top, like with Thor 4, Love and Thunder, where I think everybody can agree that they traversed into slapstick territory, and it really kind of ruined the whole movie. Same thing with the second Star Wars movie, where they just added too much slapsticky stuff, and they thought they were going the Marvel route, whereas really they were wrong setting, wrong characters, wrong type of humor, I guess. Um, so, but they try to put that in here, and they kind of fail, I guess. In my opinion, some people may get this and think it's really humorous or whatever. So you've got the two goons at the bottom of at the bottom of the elevator, waiting for the elevator. It opens. There's nobody in there. So then they go, looking around. Maybe he went onto the stairs or whatever. And then this Plastic Man character squeezes through the elevator. Don't know why he doesn't just open the elevator, but I guess they wanted to show that he has superpowers, just like Mr. Fantastic or Plastic Man. But he ruins his sunglasses, which he complains about, and again, trying to insert a little bit of humor. Whereas, why would you think that sunglasses would be able to fit through that tiny hole without being smashed up? But anyway, the goons start to come back, and he decides to go and hide into the bathroom, and he's kind of looking under the stalls and everything. He's looking for another person, and he uses his plasticky hands to open the lock of the stall, and there's a guy in there taking a dump, and he undoes the stall, and he opens it up, and he's like, "Give me your clothes now." And the guy in the stall just keeps taking a crap. It like scares the crap out of him, maybe. I don't know. That's what it's supposed to be. Like I said, it's supposed to be lighthearted comedy, and I'm just really kind of not into it. Maybe it's my mood. Maybe it's the comic. I don't know. Let me know if anybody else has read Hero Sandwich and read whether or not you really think it's funny or not. But then you go to the two upstairs, Irving and this other character that I can't remember his name, and he's calling down on the walkie-talkie to the guys that are down at the bottom of the elevator, whatever, saying that a guy in a fat guy in a suit or whatever has the package, and for them to go after that. And they say, "Hey, somebody just passed us like that," which I don't know how he knew that, but anyway, they go after him, and he says he feels kind of bad about some guy getting pinned on for stuff that they were going to do. So then it goes to the next scene where there's a girl waiting at a car, and apparently she knows who it is. Well, no, not at first. Because he's like, "Hey, gorgeous," and she says, "Get lost." And then she says, "Rachel, it's me, Richard." So the Plastic Man's name is Richard, and she's a little skeptical or whatever, taken back. And so he's just like, "I'll explain later. We got to go." And then apparently the wife of the real guy who was in the bathroom taking a dump kind of butts in and attacks him and Richard and Rachel, thinking that her husband is having an affair on him. So it's just more of this kind of slapsticky humor, and like the Plastic Man guy bowls over, even though he doesn't have or he's plastic. So I mean, getting kicked in the nuts, I don't know why that would hurt him. But anyway, the two guys from the elevator come back, or they see what's going on with the commotion, and Plastic Man guy hits him with the briefcase, jumps in the car, and even though the girls are still fighting because the wife thinks that one of them is cheating on her husband, with her husband, and she like wants to kill her, so they're having this big fight. Plastic Man uses his plasticky arms and engages the car and takes off on the car, and he's like doing the driving and stuff while these two girls are fighting. And these guys who were knocked over with a briefcase, they get into their sports car and start chasing the Plastic Man guy, Richard, and Rachel, and the wife who thinks that she's being cheated on. And so there's just like a whole bunch of car chasing going on, and the guy, the character from the above in the hotel, he, I don't know, doesn't really explain where these other two characters come from. I guess you're just supposed to assume that these are friends of his. They have the car, and actually, maybe it says down back here. One of the no, I don't think it does. It doesn't say. No, it doesn't say. You're just supposed to infer things, and it's kind of okay because it's fun reading, even though, like I said, it's not humorous to me. I don't think it's really that funny. But I've got a strange, odd sense of humor anyway that a lot of people might not get. So I guess these are all friends, and except for the wife who thinks that she's being cheated on, and who's the smiley face guy, we don't know. And then he has some sort of plan to get rid of the guy tailing him. It's some sort of speedy. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what they do. He says to do some sort of pincer move or whatever, where it's going to smash up the car, and the smiley face guy's like, we're not going to smash up my car because I guess that's his car, and this is the guy from the before, and so they kind of just smash it up, and it kind of goes flying, and they take off. So they end up back at their lair, their office, whatever. Maybe they're detectives, maybe they're superheroes. I don't know. But they end up back at their agency or whatever, and apparently whoever was there is passed out, and there's a vampire here, and he sucked some of the blood out of him. So they don't really know what to make of that. It's kind of freaky, and again, trying to add some of the humor. The character from the very beginning says, "You wrecked my car." So it just kind of wraps up that little scene. And you kind of go back to the very beginning where the guy with the sharpened teeth, and he's talking about God and penance and knowing what's right, knowing what's wrong. And he's going into a church, and he's acting like he's going to go into confession, and he sees these altar boys and stuff like that. So it's kind of a nod to Catholics and their fixation on altar boys and maybe some kind of sexual scandal or something like that. So he goes to I guess somebody comes out of the confession, and then he goes in and he says, "I'm confessing for a sin I'm about to commit." So he smashes through the confessional, and he starts to chew on the priest, I guess. So really, he's going to be the bad guy, and it fades to black because he's killing the priest. So let's talk about the writing and the story. So I guess Dan Vado is the writer, and let's go through that first. Every time I review a comic, my biggest thought on the writing is the dialogue. When there's dialogue, it has to be unique, and each character has to have their own voice. And I believe that they do in this one. They don't talk differently. They don't have like different dialects or anything, but they just have a certain way of just talking about things, and their dialogue. It's just they each have their own kind of little quirkiness. Like this guy Irving, he's kind of just matter of factly, and they've got this. Even though it's not humorous for me, it's quirky and it's fun to read, and it's got a lot of elements that are enjoyable to read. There's nothing that and it moves at a fast pace. As far as the plot, it's not too complicated. Like I said, there's no description about who these characters are. But you don't care so much because it moves along at a nice pace, and you're kind of interested in these characters. The guy in the coat, the one with the long arms and the long whatever, and it's just interesting. And there's these little idiosyncrasies, like him taking over the face of this guy and trying to get away from this scene, and the wife shows up thinking that he's cheating. So it's just these tiny little details that are really, it makes the writing interesting. And like I said, even though it doesn't describe who these characters are or what they're doing, or it doesn't explain it, it's kind of like the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. You don't know what's in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction, and you never really want to know what's in the briefcase. It just kind of infers it, and really, that's pretty much exactly how Pulp Fiction is done. It doesn't explain who the two characters are. They're just kind of having their dialogue, and it just kind of moves along where they're each talking, and that's how the story is conveyed. And that's pretty much how Hero Sandwich is. It's mostly dialogue. I don't think there's any no, there's actually inner dialogue. It's all text of him talking to himself. So really, it's all dialogue, because even in the beginning, it's all dialogue to himself, where it's first person perspective. So other than that, there's no descriptions or prose or anything like that. It's all action, and it's all dialogue, and really that's a particular way to go with comics, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some books have only dialogue. Some, like Grendel, the first Grendel, has no dialogue. It's all descriptions and first person descriptions and stuff like that. So it's all in the way it's done, and this was really good reading. So I'm going to give the writer a lot of credit for really kind of doing that, and not making it confusing. It's not confusing, but it's also not as self-explanatory. It's like you're willing to go on this journey, and so that really makes it kind of enjoyable. As for the art, I don't remember him from Miracle Man, but I guess if he did, I've read all of the Miracle Mans. I'll have to go back and look at them and see which ones he did. So very super clean, super clean. I really like this art. The only real problem I have, and it's not really a problem, it's a lot of panels. There's a lot of stuff going on. I kind of think that he could have used a little bit less panels, and it might have been as good. There's a lot of fight scenes going on, and like I say, I like a variety of different layouts and different positions and stuff like that, different sizes of characters, and really it has a lot of different viewpoints and stuff like that. So this artist is really cool. His Chuck Beckham, he's really very professional, very good. You've got these gray tones. I'm not sure if it didn't have the gray tones, because there's not a lot of black spotting. It's a lot of line work and detail, but it's not like overpowering. And so it's almost like this cries to be in color. Like this really should be in color and not black and white, because it really doesn't have that black and white goodness that a lot of stuff can have. But everything's super clear. Everything's super dynamic. I love the characters. I love the interaction that the characters has. He's really great at showing the motion and the movement through body language. Some of the really most difficult things especially with this elongated man kind of thing, is characters interacting together, like a kiss or a hug or a punch or a handshake. It's very it's difficult to do, but this guy, Chuck, what's his name again? Chuck Beckham. All of his characters really interact really perfectly. You can really tell the anime inspiration. All of these speed lines, the eyes are very anime inspired, super anime inspired, which isn't really a bad thing at all. Because he doesn't overdo it. This is not an anime manga guy. He's maybe has those influences, but he's building his own style. He's building his own way of going about things and doing things. And he packs in a lot of detail. This is a great detail with the cars, lots of nice references and stuff. And yet I mean, he's not using that for reference, but he's twisting and tangling up that car in a certain super great way. It reminds me of um, I can't remember his name, Jeff Darrow, which is really cool. So yeah, very clean, very nice, very polished. Um, would I say he would ever have become one of my favorite artists? Probably not. There's no real reason why. People just have different tastes, and he's just would never hit that spot where you just look at it and something about it makes you love it, or make you hate it, or make you indifferent. I would say I enjoy this art, but it doesn't hit that sweet spot of me thinking that it's really fantastic. It's got all of these really great things going for it. Super clean, great line work, great inking, which I don't know if he does the inking. Does this other guy? Does Sensitivity Aaron Weiss? Is Aaron Weiss the inker? If so, I think the inking is really fantastic. But it's really solid work, and I really appreciate it. And even though, like I said, it would never be one of my favorite artists, I still really can appreciate the artistry and the work that it's done on it. I don't really like these colors. Whoever did the coloring for this, I'm not really into it. It's I don't know. It's too kind of out there. I really think that this could have been a lot brighter and a lot more interesting in a lot of ways. I do like the layout of the cover, the white and the panel inside. I do like that, but I don't like the covers, and I think the whole cover probably could have been a little bit done better. Just said I like it, but now that I'm thinking about it, it really doesn't explain anything, and it's kind of just an action scene, which is perfectly okay, but I think they maybe could have done a little bit more. Maybe I don't know. I don't know how it could have been different, but so I'm gonna give this a rating of. I do want to get more Hero Sandwich. I think there's 4 of them. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to look at that, but I do want to get more of them. If I saw them in the dollar bin, I would snatch them up real quick. Even not, if I saw them for $4 or $5, I would buy them. So that automatically bumps it up over a 7. The writer and the artist, they do really more than competent jobs. They really do good jobs, and so I'm gonna say this is an 8.5, maybe a 9. No, I can't say 9 because I didn't feel a sense of fulfillment at the end. I still didn't know who these characters were. I knew their names, Richard and somebody. I didn't know who these people were. And after a full comic, you should know who the characters are. Really, I'm bumping it down to 8 just for that simple fact, because really you have all these pages and you should know who a character is. You don't have to know their background or anything, or their anything like that, but you have to know who their background, who they are. If you read a Batman book, you're going to know by the end of the story or the end of the comic who Batman is as a character. You almost always do. Same thing with Superman, all of these other characters. So you've got a full comic. You've got to. It's part of enticing people to want to read more of your book, which I do anyway because it was written and drawn so well. But as far as the characters, I don't know who they are. I don't know what they stand for or anything like that. So I'm bumping it down to an 8. So here it is, Hero Sandwich #1 from 1987 from Slave Labor Graphics. If you guys have read this, let me know what you think. Or if you think it looks interesting, let me know that too. I love to hear you guys' feedback. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell and giving me a thumbs up if you like this kind of content. I do all kinds of indie comics and older Marvels and DCs and stuff like that. Little less known stuff that some of the other reviewers may have gone by. So anyway, Hero Sandwich #1, I'm giving it an 8. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you guys next time, and keep on creating.